Hello, and thank you for joining us on this short webinar, especially at lunchtime. I understand there's probably a few rumbling bellies out there, so hopefully we won't take up too much of your time, and you'll get some value out of today's session. So jumping straight into things, looking at the agenda initially. So the purpose of this session is just to have a look at the different cloud solutions that are offered via Telstra. So Telstra initially had their own infrastructure as a service solution, but have set up several partnerships with other larger vendors to increase that offering to their clients. So we'll have a look at those different cloud solutions and move on to some of the benefits of looking at a cloud solution, as well as some points to keep in mind around the different offerings out there. Then lastly, we'll finish up by introducing a bit of a questionnaire that we've developed in-house, just to assist you in identifying what cloud solution may be the best fit for your business. Okay, so looking at the different cloud offerings initially. So as I mentioned just before, so Telstra have their own Telstra IaaS solution, and then that is broken into a dedicated and a shared offering. So how that is structured is the dedicated, the customer client actually purchases the physical hardware. That hardware is theirs, but it's hosted within the Telstra data center. So everything from the hardware layer upwards, the client controls. It is great if you're looking at a fairly significant infrastructure to move over to the cloud. On the shared side, so the shared is a virtual machine infrastructure. So you can fire up separate virtual machines on an as-needs basis, or if you've just got, typically under 10 virtual or server roles, under 10 server roles, the shared infrastructure tends to be a more cost-effective solution. So looking at some of the partnerships that Telstra have set up around that cloud area to increase that entire solution. Some of those brands are IBM, Cisco, VMware, and also a relationship with NEXTDC. So looking at Cisco's offering. So Cisco's solution itself is developed for web scale based applications. So if you have applications that are quite highly used from your customers, clients, and so forth, their infrastructure is a fantastic platform for something like that. So say an example would be Netflix, where there's quite a lot of processing that happens on that platform. That Cisco solution is developed to be able to take that sort of load. Moving over to the IBM cloud. So IBM cloud is called SoftLayer, and that is all focused around bare metal applications. So if you have an actual application that you want to run on that infrastructure and manage everything from the operating system upwards, then that would be the best cloud solution for you. Looking at VMware's offering, so VMware has a product called vCloud Air, which is great if you've got a virtualized environment already on premise that uses the VMware technology. As the VMware cloud itself is exactly the same technology, the interactions between those two environments are quite seamless, as well as the actual migration process to moving to that particular cloud is quite a simple and seamless process as well. So they're the actual cloud solutions, and then NEXTDC we've actually included there. So NEXTDC is a co-location solution. So the client themselves will actually own the hardware. Quite similar to Telstra's dedicated offering, where they can create an off-premise infrastructure, whether it's for a backup side of things or to actually just move that infrastructure off their site. So that's great, a great offering for those sort of requirements. And all of these data centers are also Australia-based as well. So all that infrastructure will be housed within the country. So looking at some of the benefits towards businesses for making the move to the cloud. So the first and probably the one that's mainly focused out there in the market is the predictable IT spending. So being able to move to a set monthly fee just makes it a lot easier to understand the costs throughout the year to the business for that IT infrastructure, and understand that if you need to add additional resources or server roles and so forth to that infrastructure, there's a set fee involved in that. Looking at the scale and flexibility, so with a cloud-based solution, particularly if you're looking at the virtualized environments, you have access typically within an hour or two to increase the actual resources allocated to those different server roles, whether it's a RAM, storage, CPU, and so forth. Moving on to automated backups and DR. So the different cloud-based solutions that we covered just on the previous slide have typically backup and disaster recovery solutions in place. Big tongue tie there. So you can have that peace of mind that that data is safe and secure. Also looking at or touching back on that cost piece. So typically, if you were to upgrade your infrastructure, you have a capital expense of actually getting that hardware in place, as well as the ongoing fees to actually maintain that infrastructure. While with a cloud-based solution, it moves to an OPEX model. So you've just got those predictable monthly fees for that infrastructure, and then you don't have to worry about the different maintenance pieces around updates and upgrades and so forth. That's all looked after for you. Sorry. Now, staff productivity. With that point, and just drawing back on a solution that we've implemented not too long ago, where a organisation's head office is actually based out west, and they constantly have power outages, and that IT infrastructure sits within their data centre on site. So when those outages happen to the head office, their remote sites, which there are 22 of them, lose complete access to their IT systems and have to move to a paper-based model. So we've actually recently had a look at a co-location solution for them, whereby if that power goes down for that head office, it automatically switches to the additional infrastructure. So none of the other sites are actually affected by that. So that productivity piece has really increased just purely for that reason. So when looking at a cloud, there are a number of points to keep in mind, particularly because each cloud has its own benefits as well as disadvantages. So having a look at some of the things to keep in mind are initially around security and compliance. So something that comes up quite often is how to access that actual infrastructure. So if you're moving to a cloud where typically that infrastructure was closed off within the internal network, clients need to think about if they still want that sort of setup where there's just a secure connection directly to that office, or open that infrastructure up so their employees can access that infrastructure remotely. Also, you're going to need to keep in mind any sort of industry-related compliance requirements. So where your data is housed, how secure is it? You're looking at the different industry security standards and making sure that the infrastructure aligns to those standards. And then moving on from there, looking at the business continuity planning. So touching back on that example I used on the last slide. So what happens if a site does lose power? What's in place to keep the business running? And also, if you've got an older server there, what happens if that server fails? What sort of impact is that having on the business? Looking at the IT cost side of things, so there's been quite a bit out there around the cost. Looking at a cloud solution to reduce costs, so you just need to have a look really at what that current infrastructure is costing you to have it on premise. What sort of cloud is the best option for you, and do a bit of a comparison from an expense point of view. Now, the last one I'll touch on actually on this slide is just around the business applications, just going back to the different types of clouds. So it's really looking at a cloud-based solution for an organization really needs to be driven by the types or functions and accessibility of the different applications that the business uses. So this is where you really want to focus on. A lot of organizations out there have the basic infrastructure of Active Directory, Windows Server, maybe a mail server, a file server, and so forth. But it's really those specific or critical applications to the business, how they're accessed, if there are any particular peaks in usage of those applications. Say if it's a finance-based and usage increases quite significantly around that June-July period at the end of financial year. What sort of resources do you need to be able to look after that infrastructure? Okay, so just having a look at that cloud assessment that I mentioned at the start. So we have developed a bit of a questionnaire which will follow this session from this session. The purpose of the assessment is to gather a bunch of information around current and future requirements and your current infrastructure, to be able to then have a look at what the best sort of infrastructure would be for you moving forward. Further to that, we will then have a look and actually take you through what sort of migration processes are out there and how best to get the business across to that particular cloud solution with little to no downtime to that actual infrastructure, and take you through some of the actual return on investments there of having a look at a cloud-based solution versus on-premise. So hopefully you can have those figures to show those cost savings. So that's really just brings us to the end of today's session. It was just just really a bit of a short, sharp session. Just hoping to introduce those different cloud-based offerings. But yeah, as I mentioned before, Telstra itself is really having a look at becoming a cloud broker. So opening up or growing their portfolio to make sure that they have the right cloud-based solution out there for their client base. So further to being actually able to on-sell the actual cloud environments, Telstra actually has a very, very strong solution around the connections to those different data centers, but also across Azure and Amazon Web Services too. So they've really focused in making sure that you can connect securely and have a reliable connection to that infrastructure that is no longer on site. So I'll just open up to any questions at the moment to see if there's anywhere I could sort of be of any assistance at the moment. But we'll also follow this session through with an email to that link of the self-assessment if you'd like to go through that process and have a further personal chat from there.